let's talk about Chris Hemsworth's Thor, because he's done, right? He's said pretty much he's done. He's actually thrown shade at Taika Waititi a little bit as well.
I think it's more accurate to say that Taika Waititi is done.
Well, Chris Hemsworth is done with Thor, actually, but also, Taika Waititi is done as well. But like, he's like, I'm done. He's done with. He doesn't want to work with Mad Geniuses was the quote. He didn't say Taika Waititi, but he all but inferred it through his language.
Well, you can just go to Chris Hemsworth past list of directors he's worked with and see who of his he's worked with that qualify as a mad genius. That list is very, very short. It consists of one.
Yeah, well, it is. But also, he was singing the praises of George Miller, who he's working with now on the Furiosa film, and he's like, this guy's amazing, so good, takes time, and I'm paraphrasing, but the quote is basically how like he's a director that really listens to people and understands how his energy, his how he talks to people is impacting other people's day. So he's very conscious of that. And it's like, yeah, I can see kind of what you're inferring here by not actually saying anything. Do you know what I mean? Pretty much there, I think, to be fair. But anyway, so he says this, right? He's like stating about how the franchise needs to be reinvented for him to sort of move it forwards and go anywhere with this. So this was on the happy, sad, confused thing. He says, you look at Thor 1 and 2, they were quite similar. Ragnarok and Love and Thunder are similar. I think it's about reinventing it. I've had such a unique opportunity with Infinity War and Endgame to do very drastic things with the character. I enjoy that. I like keeping people on their toes. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me invested. I've said this before, but when it becomes too familiar, I think there's a risk in getting lazy. Then because I know what I'm doing, I don't know if I'm even invited back. But if I was, I think it would have to be a drastically different version in tone. Everything, just for my own sanity. So dig there.
That's some real heavy shade right there.
Thor lost his mind in that last one. He's got to figure it out now. Right.
AKA that wasn't really Thor in that last movie.
Pretty much.
That's basically him coming out and saying that he absolutely hated every last second on Thor, Love and Thunder, and he did it for contractual reasons only.
Which is funny because because before Thor, Love and Thunder, he was talking about how he'd love to play the character until forever.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I remember that. I do remember that. I'm trying to.
He's like, I'll play it as long as they want me, or whatever it was. His quote was.
Yeah. But he's also said now that he's going to be taking a break from acting because he took like a test and he has like a genetic predisposition for Alzheimer's
or something, I think.
Yeah, we covered that shortly on one of the podcasts.
Tom, do you buy that?
I mean, a genetic predisposition, I don't. Would you be that concerned about it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, listen, everyone on this panel and everyone out there listening is genetically predispositioned for something.
I already got Alzheimer's.
What?
Like, I practically do. I mean, it feels like it. I forget everything.
Well, you should sleep more, mate. That's why.
That's probably why. No, I mean, as far as, like...
Have you forgotten? You forgot what you're about to say?
I don't even know what I'm talking about. Where am I? What day is it? Is it Tuesday? No, like, I believe he got some diagnosis that he's probably... got a pretty good chance considering his genetics or whatever, because he also talked about his grandpa or something like that.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I mean, his dad and everything like that is like, does he have an issue? Are you like jumping to some major conclusion here? Or is he just kind of fishing for this idea of like, I'm just going to kind of do an early retirement or take a few years off?
Well, basically, fine. If you have a predisposition, this dude, he still has a good 30 to 40 years ahead of him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see this
a while
being much more than him just kind of talking about shit. Because, I mean, he is a bit of a himbo. Let's be real. So
but I think I think he's using it as a very diplomatic excuse to get out of.
That's what I'm thinking too.
That's what I was saying. Is like, yeah, he kind of wants to take a break from things, and he's kind of just using it as not a scapegoat necessarily, but
it's a diplomatic excuse. Because again, like stuff like this, I mean, it is absolutely throwing shade at Taika Waititi, right?
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, how could you view it as anything other than that? So where is it?
Well, this is supposed to be his $1 billion movie.
Yeah. What did it hit at the end? Like
7 or 8, not even 8. I think
it was way short of it.
It's not good.
It was. I know it was at least a couple 100,000 or 100 million less than what Ragnarok did. And they were expecting to do $1 billion, basically.
Imagine, yeah. So speaking with Vanity Fair in the wake of the discovery, as revealed in the 5th episode of his Disney Plus series Limitless, he's genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's disease. Hemsworth was asked by the outlet writer Anthony Bresnikan if these experienced focused on longevity change the way you plan your own future, to which the actor confirmed 100%. I'm just at the point in my life where I meet. This is the weird thing. So he's like, hey, you've been genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's. Is this going to change, longevity? Is it going to change your life at all? And he's like, yeah. I'm just at the point of my life where I'm meeting with directors and people say, oh, yeah, look, he's a mad genius. He's mad, but he's a genius and he'll make great films. And I'm like, is that who I want to spend my days with? 4 months, 5 months of shooting. And then you've got press and possible reshoots and so on. I mean, that's Taika Waititi all over. He's not worked with anyone
it's not just that. It's also the Marvel way, right? Like, that's what he's talking about is like, these movies are not like an average movie where you're not doing these big special effects. You go in, you shoot a movie for about a month, maybe month and a half. A year later, you come back to do the press tour. That's usually the gist of it. But when you're doing one of these big budget superhero movies, he's not wrong. You're there for a couple months at a time, and then you got to come back for some reshoots, and then the advertising campaign. You got to remember, it's not just some you're showing up on a couple of night shows and the morning show. No, you're all over the world, right? So it's a globe-trotting event that you go from one country to the other to promote these movies, and I can see it being like him just kind of saying, I don't want to spend half my life on this shit for the rest of my life, or half my year every year on this shit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's very specifically that, but also the person, because he follows up.
And Taika Waititi being like, obviously he's throwing some shade at Taika.
Massively, because Hemsworth then told Bresnikan, now, if something's going to pull me away from my family and my kids, it's got to be a positive, constructive, collaborative experience. I shot with George Miller on the new prequel to Fury Road, part of the Mad Max saga. And I said to my agent, that's where I want to spend my work hours, with someone who is kind and collaborative and interesting.
Ooh.
On the topic of Miller specifically, Hemsworth asserted that he certainly was a genius, but he was not the mad type. And this is where you could really see the comparison that he's bringing in. Miller is a director who is very aware of how his energy affects others and how he has the power to make your day fantastic or shitty, and chooses for it to be a positive experience. The whole crew, everyone is in a better mood. It baffles me that some people in that position don't understand that.
You sure he's not talking about Kenneth Branagh?
Mate, we saw...
That was a joke. It was a joke.
But, whatever. But you know what I mean? Like,
one of the biggest shade I've ever seen.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this guy has worked with a lot of directors. That was kind of part of the joke. So, like...
Yeah.
And Taika was one of the few he's only worked with, like, twice or whatever. But you got to remember, the first Thor was directed by Kenneth Branagh. He's been in probably at least 30 movies or more, I'd say. So he's worked with a lot of different. He's even worked with Paul Feig, for fuck's sake. I mean, he could even be referring to something like that, because I can see Paul Feig and Taika Waititi are two very similar directors.
Yeah, true.
And what he's saying is, and I think you're right here, is that those kind of directors, those mad, crazy directors that he's referring to, they're difficult to work for because they don't always know what they want, or if they do, they don't allow any collaboration. See, like that's what he was saying there. I think is, like Taika is probably like, just do it this way, Chris, and don't. But Chris is like, well, what if I did this, or this doesn't make sense? And he's just like, don't think of that, right?
Just do it. Shut up. And
just do it. Just shut up and do it the way I say it. Because if you listen to the interviews, that's the other thing is Taika flat out said he sacrificed the story for jokes. And I said, it's clear when you watch this movie, because it fumbles everything it does, because you could have had a very, very touching and poignant send-off to Natalie Portman's character. You could have done a great job with setting up this idea of Thor being a father, but they did it so poorly. Even the last moments of what those two get together, a lot of it's a joke, and then she's in the hospital room, so it's like they don't even really get a real great final moment together before the final battle even. And it just, the whole movie, everything is just lands on a joke, but the jokes don't land. That's the problem.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see, because Hemsworth, he's actually a good actor. Really like him in Extraction. I watched that film recently again, and you know what? It holds up. Like, that's a decent little film, and I'm looking forward to seeing the second Extraction. This is that Netflix thing with the stuntman turned director involved in them. I think they're good little films, but I'll be interested to see, like for like, he's just done Thor: Love and Thunder. He's doing the George Miller Furiosa prequel, just to compare the two of them. They're as close to one another as possible in terms of shooting schedules. So I would be really interested to see how his performance differs in one versus the other. We know what's going to be better. We know that. But it'll be interesting to see how people respond to him. And then maybe that'll hopefully get him thinking, shit, I should actually probably be doing better films, with my time. Because he's belittling himself working for Marvel under Taika Waititi's, directing. I think that's a pretty fair
I think he feels that way too now, after the fact.
Bloody.
And I think that's kind of like what he's saying, that this is like a way of saying to Marvel, if you want Thor back again, you have to give me a better filmmaker and a better take than this shit.